What is the Chinese propaganda that we are talking about, which has appeared in a New York Times article? The New York Times says in its piece that a US tech mogul funded the Chinese propaganda globally. Neville Singham funded NewsClick to push a Chinese viewpoint. NewsClick sprinkled its coverage with Chinese government talking points, right? Who is this mysterious Neville Singham? Well, he's a US-based millionaire. He's the founder of ThoughtWorks IT consulting company. He's the son of a Sri Lankan political activist, Vikramaraja Singham. He's known as a socialist benefactor of far-left causes. Now, the New York Times report alleges that he pushed a Chinese propaganda in India. The New York Times says that the website NewsClick got money from Singham. The New York Times says that funds propaganda groups through, or Singham funds propaganda groups through American non-profits, and that he used a financial network to push China's propaganda worldwide. So those are a couple of the important allegations which have been raised, but more specifically, the ED is also probing NewsClick and their funding. Apparently, they received 38 crores from abroad. A money trail has, in fact, been found as well. Now, the BJP says that NewsClick is part of a conspiracy to demean India, that they are targeting the ruling Modi government. Now, NewsClick have, in fact, responded to these allegations, and it's important that we carry their account as well, because they say that these are false and misleading allegations. They respect the sanctity of the legal process. They don't want to indulge in a media trial. The allegations are unfounded and without basis, and the insinuation that we function as a Chinese mouthpiece is false. The Delhi High Court has granted interim protection to officials of the company. Let's just get a couple of quick reactions and then our debate.
Congress, China, and NewsClick are part of a umbilical cord. और ये इससे सिद्ध होता है क्योंकि कुछ लोगों को तो ये भी आदत थी कि, और मैं नाम लेके भी कह सकता हूं, कि राहुल जी की नकली मोहब्बत की दुकान में चीनी सामान ये साफ नजर आने लगा है। चीन के प्रति प्यार ये दिखता था, और भारत के खिलाफ दुष्प्रचार ये विदेशी जमीन पर भी और विदेशी न्यूज एजेंसियों के माध्यम से भी प्रोपेगेंडा के तहत होता था।
I think this kind of politics is absurd. No one in any of our political parties can be considered to be anti-Indian. We have a different view of how India should progress and what India needs in terms of its future as a democracy. And that's the difference. It's not about any foreign country. In fact, we have been critical of this government for not being tough enough on China after they killed 20 of our soldiers in Galwan. So it makes no sense to make such a charge.
Well, joining us now, Nalin Kohli, national spokesperson of the BJP and an advocate of the Supreme Court. We're also joined by Dr. Ajay Kumar, national spokesperson of the Congress Party. Ajay, let me come to you first. The BJP says that Rahul Gandhi should come clean about the Congress's connections with China. How would you respond?
So, Vishnu, you need to give me a little, some time before you interrupt. You know, few times, NDTV was also accused, one second, NDTV was also accused in the previous dispensation. So this is their favorite hobby. So you have two options. If you want to believe the New York Times, then the New York Times, we should treat them as gospel truth. They said Modi is promoting hatred, he's responsible for Delhi riots, he's destroying the secular fabric. So you can't choose. So the New York Times has said 15 to 20 articles on how they're using fake media, how they create videos with Muslims. All that is the New York Times. Yes. So do you want to believe that? Let's go with New York Times. The second issue, if you don't want to go with New York Times, what is Prime Minister's care fund? Huawei 7 crore rupees, Paytm 38% ownership 100 crores, Xiaomi, Oppo, OnePlus, TikTok. TikTok, by the way, 30 crores, which they banned later. PM care fund, which is a private fund. Vivekananda, where Ram Madhav and Mr. Famous Ajit Doval and all of them are there. Look at their contribution. China Institute of International Strategic Studies, Chinese Institute, Center for South Asian Studies, Peking, Research Institute of Indian Ocean Economics, National Institute of Intermittent Strategy, Beijing, I don't stop there. Let me continue.
No, you made your point, but I get
No,
the point that you're
but-
saying.
No, one sec. No, you need to understand this point. The point is
Yes.
that the Prime Minister. No, it's very simple. The New York Times has said that they create fake videos. Let Mr. Nalin Kohli say that. Listen, we accept New York Times, their gospel truth. BJP is guilty of making false videos. Hindus pretending as Muslims, spreading hatred and all. I'm okay. Or Mr. Modi should answer, and Mr. Ram Madhav, and Mr. Doval.
Okay.
That they
All
are
right.
taking actual documented money.
Ojo, you made
Yeah,
lots of points. Let Nalin reply. Nalin, go ahead.
Vishnu, sometimes the Congress party, when it finds the shoe is on the wrong foot, then starts looking at the trees and likes to run away from the forest. Let's now step back for a minute. It is Mr. Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party that has been adopting a sort of a false, muscular, aggressive strategy on China. Now it is making sense to us that why they are doing so. Because they have a connect with China. So every second day, the Congress party wants to know China pe kya kar rahe ho, but the fact is you are being funded by China. The second part of the story is that on China, it's the Congress party which has an agreement, an understanding between their party and the Communist Party. And then NewsClick becomes something they defend, they stand for. Now we see all the connect. So now there are two battles being fought. A battle that is fought on conviction, on the truth, and a battle fought on falsehood and propaganda, fake stories, fake news. Because it's such a sensitive topic now for the Congress party, they actually had to come to NDTV and say that, look, NDTV was liked, not liked, something like that, to build a narrative. So I think Mr. Ajay Kumar, who's personally a friend of mine, had to make such a labored effort because they found, right with this story, the shoe is on the wrong foot and therefore they have nothing better to say.
Okay. Ojoy, China giving money to the Congress to oppose the BJP government, that is one of the allegations the BJP has made. How would you respond to that?
So look, again, I need to reiterate that Nalin is also my good friend. But the fact is, the New York Times has made NewsClick and we defended the BBC also. But I'm saying they actually got money. The Prime Minister's Care Fund got money. The Vivekananda Foundation got money.
No, but we are talking about whether you got money.
No, and we didn't. So that's what I'm saying. They can't get that. So that is the joke. And Mr. Gadkari goes in 20... See, जब ये आरोप लगाते हैं, ये करे तो बहुत गुणवान व्यक्ति हो गए. Mr. Gadkari went in 2011. Let me read out. Mr. Gadkari went to Beijing, Shanghai with a delegation. The Chinese ambassador received him in 2005. They flew into Shanghai. Modi visited China 5 times. But most important, this is ORF Foundation where Mr. Jaishankar's son is there. Again, the Chinese have funded it. And I'm talking actual money. They are making allegations. Mr. Anurag Thakur looks, tries to be very grim and because they're just peddling falsehood. We defend the right of all people to speak. We would defend BBC. We don't know the funding of all these agencies.
Would you defend the right of NewsClick as well, Ojoy?
No, we would defend the right of anybody who speaks in the interest, the freedom of press. We have no clue what the government has access to it. If anybody has got illicit funding or against the interest of India, we will go and hammer and tongs after them. But what about Mr. Modi? He took money from TikTok. Yeah, you have to accept Vivekananda Trust.
Okay.
You have the National Security Advisor.
You've raised several examples. Nalin, why don't you reply one by one? Observer Research Foundation. Okay, you may not have to reply as far as that is concerned.
Let me answer. I've got the hang of it.
Yeah.
Prime Minister Modi has taken no fund from anyone. He does not even keep, I think, his affidavit will speak volumes. He is not one of the persons who had to take over a company like National Herald for a 1 rupee transfer or something like that. These are two different models. Now, okay, the Congress is entitled to its model. Prime Minister Modi has accepted no funds. If something's gone in PN Care, it went to make ventilators for Indian citizens, didn't go to Prime Minister Modi. However, let me come to the important thing. Why is the Congress party making such an effort? When Doklam happened, it's a matter of record. Rahul Gandhi ji chose to have tea without revealing to anyone in a secret, clandestine manner with the Chinese ambassador. While in the morning, he was basically asking what is happening to our soldiers, Choklam, what is the government doing? Evening, he decided it's a good time to have a cup of tea with the Chinese ambassador. Indian tea or Chinese tea, I don't know, but he certainly went there. It got leaked. When it got leaked, then the Congress party had to somehow try to cover it up and make way everything. Same thing, they are the ones who entered into an agreement with the Chinese party on a party-to-party exchange. So therefore, the Congress party is finding, as I said it earlier, there is a pattern. Their leader calls the army chief Sarakka Gunda. It's a fact. It's a statement of fact. They are basically raising questions on the armed forces. You tell us, surgical strike, where is the proof? Balakot, where is the proof? One of their leaders said only trees were brought down. Another leader said we have spent so much money to only go and burn down trees, not one terrorist died. So therefore, when the Congress party toes a line on our national security, on our armed forces, that would somehow seem not to be what the average Indian, his perspective is, but certainly it's the perspective of an average Chinese person, their version, then you find a link with the NewsClick. The Congress party has to come clean, and therefore the answer, the question has to be direct. Mr. Ajoy said throughout, Dr. Ajoy said throughout, that no, we support anything in democracy. Say it bluntly, we support NewsClick. We don't. So you say, you support it or you don't. Make a straight answer.
Okay, Nalin, have a sec, let Ajoy reply. Ajoy, go ahead, yes.
No, the first question is, this is typical BJP IT cell. Create a false narrative, keep saying it. You don't have any evidence to say it. First question is, what about a prime minister who doesn't go to Manipur? What about a prime minister who says Chinese never came in and today you have stopped visiting 26 sites? That's not one side. Let me complete. The SP of Leh says you have stopped patrolling 26 sites. That is not a problem. That is not a problem if the Arunachal is being renamed. That is not a problem. The SP of Leh says 26 petroleum pipes and buffer zones have come extended to India. The people of Leh are saying it. That is not a problem. The question is they call the whole of Indian opposition traitors. We were the people who dismembered Pakistan. Who are they to give certificate? They never took part in freedom struggle. At least their what they got ancestors were supporting the British. They were involved in the assassination of the father. Let's focus on this, No, if you want to make allegations, they were involved in the assassination of the father of the nation. No, since you are stretching your limits of imagination to a reasonable extent, like Nalin has
No. Ajoy, he's talking about national security, and he's saying that raising examples that on national security, the Congress has failed to back a national sort of perspective on A, B, C, and D. I mean, let's not.
So my question is,
go ahead, Ajoy. Yes.
Ask on why are you speaking to the Chinese? Why are you not taking strong action? Is that, aren't we fighting for India? Why are we not asking the Prime Minister to answer on the China issue?
Okay.
Why are we not asking him to, no, one second. And we are telling him on Manipur because it's a border state. No, it is a free border, international border. Isn't it putting India in danger? Isn't destroying the internal fabric of India putting India in danger? Isn't it weakening the social harmony, weakening India? So our question is, nobody on this channel, whether it's Nalin or me, have any doubts, or I don't have doubts on Nalin's commitment to the nation. But the tragedy is these guys give certificates. It's so stupid. I mean, it's very irritating because every one of us is a patriot. Everyone who comes to this country to the parliament is a patriot.
I think it's only fair that I get Nalin to respond 30 seconds and then I wrap this up. Or we can keep going on this.
But I hope Dr. Ajoy, my friend, is going to say, does he support NewsClick or not?
Ajoy, you've not answered this question.
I don't support. I don't. Read my lips, Nalin. I don't. Yeah.
You're sounding out of Hollywood, Ajoy.
No. Read my lips. What do I do?
Okay, gentlemen, back to the topic. Nalin, if you have 30 seconds, would you like to reply?
Yes.
Or
of course. Yes. Just straight away. Number one, they say we are the one who dismembered Pakistan. And then Mani Shankar Iyer ji, their senior leader, goes there and says, Inko hataiye, humko laiye. What action did you take? I think the sum and substance of this is there is Prime Minister Modi, who in the last 9 years has gone more than 50 times to Northeast. That is more than all Congress Prime Ministers put together. They didn't even total 50 times to the Northeast. Don't teach us that commitment. As far as the Northeast was concerned, this was land way beyond, no care. This under Prime Minister Modi, while the total amount spent on the Northeast from 1947 till 2014 was 2 lakh crores, that has increased to 7.5 lakh crores in the last 9 years. Every 15 days, a minister of the union has been in the Northeast not just in state capitals, in districts and even in villages. So don't teach us the commitment to the Northeast. Militant groups have gone out, and as far as Manipur is concerned, the Home Minister was there 3 days. Tell me where in a Congress government the Home Minister has ever spent 1 day, 2 days or 3 days ever in the Northeast total.
Can I answer that?
Home Minister Amit Shah spent a night in Mon district in Nagaland. First Home Minister in the country to do so.
Okay, gentlemen, I have to wrap this part of the debate. As I said, no. Both of you, I mean, I asked Ajoy the first question and I asked Nalin the last one. That's as fair as I can be, because I will be hammered by both sides at the end of this discussion. But let me try and focus on the rather serious issue of Chinese propaganda I mean, where exactly it is a threat to us. Professor Harsh Pant joins us now. Thanks, Professor Pant. You've been listening in on this debate, but I suspect you'd want to talk about perhaps the more substantial threat. Now, information warfare is a crucial component of China's commercial activity, their military strategy formulation. How has it affected us?
I think, Vishnu, this is a very, very serious matter that has been boiling under the surface now for a while. Now, this, of course, is one of the latest, the New York Times story is the most recent, expose kind on what China has been up to. But I think it has been well known now, those who observe China, those who observe the strategy, and the Chinese themselves have been quite open about the fact, when they say smokeless war, that's what they want to project, that this is a kind of information space that they want to dominate. And they have a reason to, because they believe that in the information space, they still have a distinct disadvantage. If you look at the global media, global narratives, they are largely shaped still by the Western liberal democracies. And they feel, the Chinese Communist Party feels vulnerable that somehow these narratives are going to be strong enough to push them out of power. So while they started off using a very strong disinformation campaign vis-a-vis their own people, this is a party that used information as a means of exerting control over their own people over the last several decades. Now that they have mastered that art, as they rise in the global hierarchy, they want to project their influence abroad using information as one of the most significant tools. And they've spent a lot of money, they've spent a lot of resources, and a lot of political heft have gone into it. Now, I think the fact that these tidbits come out every few months about some individuals, some organizations, that should not obscure the fact that this is a very well-calculated, well-calibrated, well-funded effort by the Chinese Communist Party to put its own narrative out there and to use and to exploit the space that often democratic liberal countries provide China in a non-reciprocal manner, because we can't go to Chinese, our media companies can't go and operate in China, but China can operate freely everywhere. And I think that's what it has come down to. They've used their influence, their resources, and their very strong organizational focus to build this network of institutions and individuals who are in some ways dominating this information space, as this report points out. Now, it is very scary at times because in a democracy, for example, like ours, very open, very vibrant, and very immune and susceptible to external influences, how do we prevent this from going, offhand? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the issue that all liberal democracies have been dealing. And
but Harsh, I think the response to that is that you can't, you have to respond in kind. And let's face it, we do. There is an information battle, certainly in the military sphere, which is taking place on Twitter. It's taken a very morbid and sad sort of perspective in a sense. The Chinese have been showcasing photographs of Indian soldiers during the entire Galwan issue. It's very deliberately put out. Those groups, of course, are blocked. But India is responding by putting across our own videos. Do you see that as being perhaps the only way forward? We see the same tit for tat, for example, in the war between Ukraine and Russia.
Indeed, I think Vishnu, for liberal democracies, there is very little. I think that the challenge is much starker. Because if we do not respond in kind, then if the information space gets dominated by disinformation and by the kind of campaigns that that countries like China run, then it is it becomes inimical not only to the future of our people and our interests, but also to the very viability of our democracy. And we have seen how, for example, Australia faced this very strong backlash in the last few years, and they've come back and pushed back very hard against Chinese interference, once they realized to the extent that it had gone into, they came up with new laws, they came up with new, institutional frameworks to manage this transition. So I think in liberal democracies, we'll have to find innovative ways of doing that, because that's also, one of our strengths is that we like freedom of expression. That is embedded in the very psyche of how we are, how we generate our thinking, and how we want to take our democracies forward. So it can't be a tit for tat, just as what the Chinese are doing. But certainly the way we have to respond to the Chinese malevolence in this regard is to be very upfront about the challenge we face, and perhaps a national consensus on what democracies across political parties can come to terms with. And I think that's what perhaps is the need of the hour in a democracy like India as well.
I think it does need some serious thinking, because it's not going away. Thanks very much, Harsh, for joining us, sharing all of those points. We'd like to discuss this with you at length using specific examples in the future. But for now, I'd like to turn our attention to Manipur. The violence has been going on now for more than 3 months. Suffering on both sides, the Meitei community, the Kuki-Zo community as well. Here's a special report on the loss and tragedy of those who did escape, some of whom have come to Delhi.
हमारा हो कि हमारा घर हम वापस लाना है।
We want justice! We want justice!
Why would they harm a school?
कोई DC office की मुझे कैलेंडर छिका है सासी की बच्चे ये लगा नहीं था।
At the center of the escalating violence in Manipur that started on May 3rd is an unfolding human tragedy. Deaths apart, there are over 50,000 people who still live in relief camps, and many of them have also managed to escape the state.
It was really difficult to handle the situation because I have 3 kids, my mother-in-law and my father-in-law. It was really horrible that day when the mob came. We were hiding inside the toilet because our house was made of wood, and if they throw the fire, it will burn easily. So there's no place to hide. The lights were shut down, everything, and we were inside the toilet, and we prayed to God that God would help us. At the time, even my youngest son, Mama, I don't want to die at this moment. I'm so scared, and he cried. And I comfort him at that moment. Even though I comfort him, it's really hard for me to, because I'm also scared, my own. And my kids were very obedient. They're very obedient even though they're small, especially the 2 smaller ones. They were crying everywhere, were shouting, screaming, very dark, very horrible. And when they tried to smash every gate, so they tried to push our gate and they throw big stones inside our house. We were so scared inside the toilet. The toilet was not big. It's very small. So we were very scared. We prayed and prayed. And at that moment, before that, the Manipur police, they were coming. But then when the mob came, they chased away all the police. So they could not protect us at that moment. And when they reached our house, the Pangal is next to our locality. They ran and they tried to save us. Because of them, we are safe. We're safe. We thought that the CM, he will do something, but then there's no news at all, and we have to pack and leave. We have to pack and leave. We are forced to pack and leave. It's really hard with old people, with kids. It's not easy. With our little backpacks, we could not even run at that moment. but then we have to hide. And the fourth night we were hiding in their place. The fifth day, they called Assam Rifles to take us to the camp. So we were in the camp, and it was really hard to say. Thousands and thousands of people were there. Thousands and thousands of people were there. It's really hard to eat food. And even some kids, one kid I still remember, he has cancer, and the other kid, he's paralyzed. They were in the hospital and they were tested. So they flew away from the hospital and we were there. It's really hard to see them. It's really hard, ma'am. I don't know how to express. But then when we are out from our locality, some Pangals, they said that there were 7 people were killed. They were eaten by dogs, and it's really, we don't know. Their parents might be searching them, and it's really hard.
Violence of Manipur starting May 3rd, a lot of families have fled different cities of Manipur that have faced the brunt of violence. At the receiving end of this escalating violence are many families, women and children. One of them is with me right now, and this family, which includes 2 little children, has been through this whole journey of Imphal, Moirang and now Delhi. They actually hail from Churachandpur. We're going to talk to them and understand what is it that they went through. सरकार से कोई उम्मीद है?
सरकार से अभी तक कुछ नहीं बोला है.
आपका होप क्या है? क्या चाहते हैं आप सरकार से?
हमारा होप कि हमारा घर हम वापस लाना है. हमारा चुराचांदपुर में जन्म दिया है, तो उधर में हम रहना चाहता है, वापस रहना चाहता है.
निंसिंगबो मतमदा यामना पुसी कावरलोइदबा कावसु ngam maroi thaba